Alright everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So we're getting around to some more Shonen Jump stuff today. I do keep wanting to get back to read-throughs, but honestly I've just been feeling kind of exhausted this last little while. So I'm going to try to rest and recuperate a little bit more before kind of like trying to overtax myself. But in the meantime, there's still a lot of good stuff coming your way. So we've got some Spy Family and Akane-Banashi to get around to this weekend. So if you enjoy this content, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let us dive into it. The Akane-Banashi Story 175, Can You Reach? With Rakugo supervision by Kikuhiko Hayashiya, with story by Yuki Tsunaga, art by Takamasa Moe. With translation by Stephen Paul and lettering by Sneeron. I'll pick up with a flashback with Iken walking down a hallway, and you have no laughing. Show that you can win without making the audience laugh. And you hear him, I assume, just eavesdropping on Isho giving Akane her new marching orders. And you see as he's watching the performance, he goes, well, how will you tackle this one? And you have the Zu-In prize, you have, our next competitor is Akane Arakawa. And she kind of somberly walks out, like sits down and bows. And starts with, well, there are a number of different ways to describe a person as cheap. Skinflint, tightwad, miser. Then there's Muika Shirazu, meaning doesn't know 6 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, up to the 5th day, you can count by curling up your fingers. But to count the 6th day, you have to release your fingers to continue. But a cheapskate, once he has grasped something, will never let it go. And that's why he doesn't know 6 days. In the time of Edo, there were canals and waterways with rivers flowing all over the place. Along one of these rivers walked a particularly cheap father and son. Well, the father was walking along the riverbank when he tripped on a rock and fell right into the water. He's like, hurry, help me get it, or help me get out. He's like, help you get out? But I can't swim. He's like, excuse me, over there. My dad fell into the river. Could you save him? He's like, how much will you pay me? He's like, huh? How much? But he'll sink. Yeah, and I can save him, so how much is he worth to you? He's like, how about 1 Rio? He's like, 1 Rio? To get naked and jump into a river? Don't know if I can do that. 5 Rio, that's my counter. 2 Rio, 5 Rio. It's like, please, just 3 Rio, please. 5 Rio, you want me to save him? You pay up right now. Meanwhile, as he was drowning, the father spoke up to say, 5 Rio, too much, glub glub. Talk him down to 3. And you see the audience just laughing. And you see in the back, Hikaru, Karashi, and the other bro being like, reacting in surprise, going, she made the audience laugh? It's like, wait, that's normal though. It's always a good thing. And he thinks back to her being like, but standing in place means losing ground. I need to win it all. And you have, this feels wrong. Even if she changes her strategy and goes for laughter, she could do it like yesterday and really accentuate the comical side of the story. But she's just talking very naturally. Has her execution slipped and gone out of sync with her intentions? It's like, wait, no. Yeah, she's not intending for that at all. She's not trying to make them laugh. And you see with Iken going, the funny parts, the sad parts, performers will add their own flavoring, trying to get the most out of the twists and turns of the story. But the story they're trying so hard to improve is a classic dish that's been beloved over the ages. Show it off as it is. The classics are designed to make the audience laugh without any extra work. The performer shouldn't add anything to force them to laugh. That was Master Isho's meeting and his lesson. So, can you reach that state of mind? I have Akane back on the beach with, it's not working. I've got a good grasp of it now, but I won't win at this rate. I can just tell. I'm still missing something. He said that you don't have the sight. I misunderstood the meaning of sight. What I ought to be looking at. And you see this kind of like whitish cloud like forming behind her. It's like, yeah, we'll get the thoughts on this chapter. Like, man, I don't know how I feel about this. So again, like, I'm kind of rehashing like arguments I've done before over and over again. But I've talked before about how this series kind of goes out of its way too often to kind of blatantly just tell the audience what the message is, what the theme is, like what it's trying to get, at what point it's trying to get across without really leaving it up to your interpretation. And I think this is kind of like the prime example of that. And maybe this is a case just because of like they made it so obscure, like what exactly the goal of Isho's training of being like, oh, you know, try to do without making the audience laugh, like what the end goal or like challenge he's trying to present to her with regards to that was. Maybe they knew that was a little bit too like confusing or metaphorical, so they kind of wanted to like showcase like exactly what she's trying to aim for, like, or what lesson she was supposed to have learned from it. But I don't know if I really care for that or if I find it as interesting as the alternative, because it seems to me what they're trying to say is like, oh, you know, these stories are classics for a reason. So can you present it as they're meant to be without adding your own flourishes, your own flair, like letting your own personality shine through to like contaminate the story, so to speak? Because I feel like that's what we got from Akane, or the impression we're supposed to have gotten from Akane last chapter, where she's presented almost as a ghost or like a specter on the stage in this performance, as where she's like, oh, that's why she's doing the whole like I've become nothing but Rakugo. She's kind of eliminated any traces or presence of herself, her personality, or like individuality from the story. She's actually like committed everything to presenting just the story as it is, without any of the external flourishes and stuff like that. So I wonder if that's kind of the implications of the last couple of chapters, or like why her attitude's been like so weird and off-putting, is because she's kind of like trying to strip all of that from herself. Yeah, cause especially with you have Karashi being like, oh, you know, she's not trying to accentuate the comedic side. She's just talking very naturally, like very calmly. Like she's not really adding like any affectations or stuff to it. But yeah, I don't know if this is supposed to be a thing of like Isho trying to be like, I'm trying to give you like an appreciation for these stories and show you like why they're considered classics. Like what about them is so timeless that even, you know, like decades after they were first introduced, first told, why they still have such like universal appeal, if that's what he's trying to go for. Well, I guess we're gonna dive into that next chapter. Apart from that, something else I was thinking about after I finished recording last week's chapter, I didn't really kind of have a chance to get into, is I do wonder if anyone is going to, or if the series is going to touch on this idea that Akane is overexerting herself to try and reach this pinnacle because of the death scare that happened with what's his face. If she's trying to like overexert herself, she's like pushing herself too far, and she's going to push herself into a medical crisis similar to what what the fuck was his name? Sorry. Some days my brain just kind of short circuits and I cannot remember. Give me a second here. Shiguma, like if she's gonna push herself into like a medical crisis, like overexert herself in the same way because she's trying to push herself too hard, too fast, to try and like reach the peak or the pinnacle that she's aiming for. And again, I hate doing this where I keep comparing stuff to Haikyuu. I'm like, I know it did, and what this did this better. But Haikyuu also did do something similar. You have him kind of going through the same kind of thing, where he overexerted himself, pushed himself too far, and it cost him something at the very end, and he kind of had to learn a very painful lesson from the consequences of that. But it did cause like a chain reaction that caused him to improve, grow, and develop as a character. So I wonder if we're heading towards kind of the similar thing for Akane as well, where she's going to push herself too far and someone's going to have to like hold her and tell her like, no, you know what, this is not healthy for you. You need kind of a reality check. You need to calm down, think about what you're doing, think about who you're doing it for, like what they would want from you, and kind of have her like be a little bit more introspective before she decides to kind of step back into the limelight. And I feel like that would only happen if she does not rank even in the top 5 for this performance, or just does very, very poorly. But I guess we'll see what happens in the next couple of chapters with regards to that, because I don't think the series is bold enough to do something like that with her. Yeah, we'll see. Especially, I feel like if what's his face, the new guy does it, especially as the one to kind of hold her to task, I think it'd be interesting. But We'll see what happens. With all that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.